Isn't it nice to be able to sit here and relax and go quite slow and to be real thoughtful about these things, which are the most important things in our life. These things we're going to talk about tonight. Isn't it nice that it is possible to cut off the world and give our attention to something else? And maybe for a split moment in this class tonight, catch a glimpse of something that isn't a part of that madness, that mad world that we've been living in, perhaps today or all our lives, but that has total power over it, so that you know, so that each one of you in this room knows, without a doubt, without any question, that there is something in you that is indeed stronger than the world out there, stronger than the world in here. So do relax and slow down with me and think with me. Slow down. I'm very glad that those of you in this room are not religious in the usual meaning of that term. Because if you were religious in the way the world takes religion, in the way which you are taught to take religion, then unfortunately you would miss the significance, the power, the meaning of what we're going to talk about tonight. Because if our mind, and listen to this, if the mind is unconsciously filled with cliches, with talking about God, with bringing in religious literature, verses, proverbs, if the mind is filled with that, you could sit here in this room and agree nicely with me and nod your head and say that's right, and walk right out of here carrying with you the same confusion and jungle that you came in here with, not knowing what had happened. So can you sit here quietly without twisting anything that is said according to what you already believe, according to what you want to hear because it is familiar or because it makes you feel comfortable? Can you have no set religious beliefs at all? Completely cut them out so that the you, the self that came into this room, is not active, is not operating, is not thinking fast and hard, is not leaping in the way of what you're going to hear tonight. That is so important. It's so important to discover that you're doing this. Otherwise, you say that was a good talk, but you will not have started the change that we want to make in ourselves. This change that we want so badly, but don't know how to go about it. We can find out how to go about it. So I'm going to tell you something, that if indeed you can, even in a small way, get all the cliches, all the wish to hear something familiar, if you can get everything out of the way, then what I'm going to tell you will fall on another part of you and you will feel it, and you will come alive, and you'll go out of here not quite knowing what has happened, but feeling that it's right for you. That this is what you really want and have always wanted, but have never been able to find it. So not taking it religiously, according to your past condition and religion, I want to tell you that truth is all. That God, reality, truth, can do everything for you that you really want done for you in your life here on earth. This is not a religious statement. You understand? This is a fact. I'm telling you that it's a fact. I don't say this is your experience. Certainly not the experience of billions now of human beings on earth. But I'm telling you how happy this should make you. I'm telling you that this something else that is not a part of my usual nature exists. It exists in each one of you. It can take the place of who you have always been, which has been pretty miserable up to now, hasn't it? Pretty confused, pretty fearful, pretty desperate behind the outer show. Oh, that outer show, if I could just put an end to it. If I didn't have to quote spiritual proverbs to you, to other people. Oh, if I could just know the truth for myself, so that if I go home alone or with a dozen other people, it doesn't make any difference. Because in the car or when arriving home, I have never left that inner state that I found. It is always with me because I am it. Do you sense how tremendous this is? I can never lose it because truth can't lose itself. God can't lose himself. I am that. And this society that I was so much involved in today, that's so concerned with more war, with an economy that's gone mad, seeing scared human beings advising other scared human beings. And I tremble at the very thought of seeing through this masquerade. Because if I see through it, then what will happen to me? If I'm not playing the game anymore, where will I be? Would you have the courage to begin to see through the masquerade in your own mind? Could you start with that? Could you catch yourself making that phony remark? Enough at the start. Why on earth did I make that phony remark? Because see, false remark was made out of fear, and it kept the fear going because it stood between me and this other thing, this truth, this other thing that we've talked about. So the problem is really very simple. The problem is simple. First of all, I've never known, not really known, I haven't really known that God existed. I preached sermons, and I read the Bible, and I quoted Christ, and I prayed. Every night I prayed, and I memorized religious verses, but I didn't know that God existed. Because all this was an act of desperation, of feeling afraid, and therefore trying to find an answer out there. And I'm so block-headed, so stupid, so stubborn, so scared, that I refuse to see the lie of the whole process. I'll fight you. I'll get mad. I'll lie to myself. I'll do anything to keep my illusion in place, because this is all I've ever known. And one of the illusions I had was that God is up there taking care of me. And if we all prayed enough, if all these fighting nations prayed hard enough, maybe God could bring peace on earth. Haven't you ever wondered why people ask God to bring peace on earth instead of just stopping the fight? Never mind asking God to bring peace on earth, stop fighting. And stop lying about the reason for your fighting, because you'll always lie about it, whether it's with another nation, or with your wife or husband or friend, or with a boss, or with yourself. Oh, but if I give up my thoughts, my ideas, my religion, then I won't have God. You never had God. You never had God to give up. You had the word God, the word Jesus Christ. You had the word salvation. You had the word prayer. And that is all you had. Now you tell me what that has got you so far. Huh? You know what it's got you. So I see myself in a very strange position now. I see myself having to give up my ideas about God. Thank heaven for the day. The energy alone that I save would be well worth it. Have you ever noticed how boring it is to be religious? Huh? Aren't you glad when the sermon is over? Come on now. Aren't you? And aren't you sorry you have to get up Sunday morning and put on that suit and tie the pretty dress, and the fixed smiles as you go in. But we won't go into that. So I find myself without any power at all to feel right, to be right with this pseudo-religion, pseudo-spirituality, which I have lived in up until now. I've also seen something else, very frightening, but I'm going to look at it. I'm not going to be bluffed by it. I see that I have no power at all. I certainly have none over my own mind. That madhouse up there, right? I have no control over my emotions, over my feelings. You can hurt my feelings with a change of expression. You can make me angry. You can make me lonely. You can do all these things. What a mess I am. It's far worse than I ever thought it would be. I'm a total wreck. I'm not a little liar. I don't just tell lies. To my horror, I am the lie. My nature itself, my pseudo-nature, my artificial nature is the lie. I am a lie. It's far worse than I ever thought it would be. All right. So I have no power, but I do have something else. I do have a choice. I do have a choice, thank heaven for that. Otherwise, nothing could change. The battering, the fights, the fears, the anxiety, the bluffing, the fakery has worn me out. I don't know which way to turn. Life is pure hell. But I have a choice. I have the choice of seeing the state that I'm actually in, and then I can question for the first time in my life whether it is possible to see something other than this state. And then something else, which is quite important. And again, I'm very glad that this is not a religious talk, because I want to use a word that is quite often associated with religion, and it's a wonderful word when we use it rightly. I see I have no power. I see the mess I'm in. I can begin to consent to something that is not of me. I can begin to consent to something that I don't presently know. Which is, as we said last week, putting myself out on the prairie with no place to go. I have no idea where I'm going, except that I know I'm going into it. I'm going into the state. This is one thing I can do. I can consent to something other than my 30, 40, 50, 60 years up until now. Look. Even if I have hardly an idea of what that means, I can still do it. And I don't have much idea of what it means. But I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not staying in the jungle anymore. Somewhere along the way, I picked up a small feeling that I don't have to. That it's not necessary. So I'm going to, with my eyes closed, because they're not open yet, but my eyes closed, I'm going to start walking. Do you think I care how many pits I fall into and how many trees I bump to and bruise myself? How many stupid things I do? I don't care 1 second how foolish I am. Because I'm going to get up, I'm going to climb out of that pit, and I'm going to get up from where I fell down on that tree, and I'm going to walk right into the next tree if necessary, but I'm going to move. Because somewhere, this feeling is right. I know it. I know it all by myself, without you telling me, without reading a book that confirms it, without having to have it recharged from the outside. This is something that is not of my 30, 40, 50, 60 years. This is the beginning of truth. This is the beginning of God. And all the adventures after that are astonishing is too mild a word. Tremendous is too mild a word. Because I thought I had to be mad all my life and lie about it and call myself sane. Sitting around with the boys. I thought I had to be a nice fella and lie along with them. Or a nice woman and meet at the club. I thought I had to go along with it and lie. How on earth did this ever happen to you? That I discovered this while here in this life? Now I'll tell you one of the discoveries that we make. More than tremendous. After hard work, I discover that when I give pure attention to my own confused or negative state, the confusion and the pain disappear. I'll say it another way. When I can be alert enough, awake enough, all day long, right at the office, right in the home, walking down the street, and I can catch any kind of a painful thought, depression, you name it. I can catch it trying to take me over. When I give my attention to it, it vanishes. It vanishes because the attention replaces it. And that that attention is not of it, it is something else. Therefore, the two can't occupy my mind at the same time. Tremendous. Now I know the secret. Now I know that this thing I've called truth, what I've called God, part of its operation is for me to use my mind in a new way, which is not to be a slave to my own mind, but to discover that the kingdom of heaven is within. And by understanding all this, when I see myself unhappy, depressed, resentful, any way at all, if I see myself in any state that is harmful to me and therefore to you, because I will radiate my negativity and hurt you, therefore I have no conscience. When I can catch it, give it my attention, it goes. And I'm free. Are you going to go out of here? Are you going to go out of here tonight and go back to that same world you came out of? Maybe tonight some of these things have penetrated some of you for the very first time. Let them penetrate as deeply as they want. And at the same time, you watch your resistance, which can take about 50 different forms. One of them being, and this is one of the worst of all, one resistance you may have to this is that you already understand it. Then you be real honest with yourself and say, if I really understand this, then how come I blew up today? At that other motorist, or at that other person I worked with? Or how come I live in a general state of heaviness? A general state of heaviness. And how come I have to ask everyone what to do? Oh, you think you don't do that? You do it all day long. Without knowing that you're doing it. Would you like to have the answers from yourself? I will tell you. First of all, I'll tell you what is not possible. It's not possible to know how to repair your automobile, necessarily, or how to build a house, or how to cook a 7-course dinner, or how to sew up a dress. Where that is necessary, you can acquire the knowledge or hire someone or ask someone to do it for you. But I will tell you that all questioning about your psychology, about who you are and who you are not, all these answers are yours for the taking. Right here in this life. You can start right here in this room to answer everything from yourself. This is the truth. Whether you know it or not, I'm telling you, this is the truth. Do you want it? Or, at this point, do you still value the fight, the battle? If you do, then you make up your mind tonight that you're going to find out just where you are fighting this truth because you fear it's going to do something harmful to you. Going to do something harmful to you. What do you do to yourself all day long? I repeat, those of you listening to this tape, listen. What do you do to yourself all day long? With this truth, you can begin to do something different, and it'll be effortless, and there'll be no doubt. No doubt. Because it is not you living there anymore at all. something completely new. Something you suspected might exist, but were afraid of it. Isn't it an incredible thing? And with this will stop. Isn't it an incredible fact that we fear the truth that sets us free? Stop and think about it. We fight it, we fear it. You consent to letting the truth do what it wants with you. And everything that happens to you in that relationship will be good, will be healthy, will be sane, and will be intelligent. And step by step, you will see yourself changing right in front of your own eyes. The truth is all there is. The rest is imagination. The rest is fantasy. The rest is stubborn self-will. The rest is lying. And finally, the truth that sets us free does not itself battle with the lie. It is above the lie. I dropped the lie, willingly dropped the lie. The truth is there. Truth is there for me to live. All right, we'll talk and have open discussion, but let me ask you a question. What do you suppose would happen internally if all this toughness, if all this aggression, all this fight against the outer world and against your own nonsense, if all this energy was turned in a different direction? Let me rephrase it. What if you were to get very, very tough with yourself? As tough as you are with other people. As tough as you are with yourself in self-condemnation. Why don't we get tough in the right way so we can clear out the mess? Oh, for heaven's sake. 99% of all my hostilities and aggressions and antagonisms and malice are unseen by me. Therefore, wasted energy. Complaining, effective as of now, you will never again complain that this is a sick world, which it is. Because when you complain, that means you don't understand. When you complain and condemn this sick world, you are part of it. You can see without condemning. Which means you are not condemning at all, therefore not comparing, therefore not getting a false sense of self out of it, but seeing it. But to get back to the original point, why don't you get tough with yourself instead of with your neighbor, instead of with this sick world you see on television? Get tough with our own sickness. It's a very nice distraction. That's the easy thing to do. To say that I'm in favor of this nation winning the war instead of that nation. Or of this law being passed instead of that law. That's the easy way out. Now you don't have to see what a liar you are. Now you don't have to see how tricky you are to get what you want from other people. Now you don't see what a petty thrill you get when you get some small advantage. Now you don't see the false pleasure you get when someone gives you something. Ha! You sell your soul for a box of chocolates. He loves me. He brought me a box of chocolates. You'll fight. Comments? Questions?
Go into it further, please, about getting tough with our sickness.
Yeah. All right. Instead of enjoying it, instead of enjoying the sickness, you understand, do you not, or don't you? Yes or no? Do you understand that you're having the time of your life when you are, well, I'm going to run out of fingers. You're having the time of your life when you are depressed, jealous, thrilled in the wrong one. You name a couple more. You're having the time of your life when you're doing this. Because that acts as a barrier that prevents you from seeing what you think, if you do see, will be the end of you, which it will. Why don't you try it sometime? Why don't you try giving up, feeling, let me see if I can get the right word. Feeling put upon. Give me a better word than put upon. Taken advantage of. Ha, that's good. And you are, because you're a sucker, you're asleep, you are taken advantage of, it's your own fault. If you didn't love that feeling of being taken advantage of, if that was out of the way, you would see the fact of being taken advantage of, which means that you will no longer take advantage of anyone else. Therefore, you can see how they take advantage of you. You don't see how you're taking if you don't understand how they take advantage of you, it's because you will take advantage of them if you get a chance, and you'll hide it from yourself. You think you won't, you do it all day long. Sorry, but you do. Shall I tell you why? Because you're desperate. And do you know what you're desperate over? You're desperate over, you're worried, desperate, afraid that someone will unlock the key to the cell. Oh, it's so comfortable in there. I've got my books. I've got my TV set. I've got a couple friends there. And if you open the cell door, I won't know where I am. And I won't know how to behave. Therefore, I have to hang on to this comfortable sickness, this prison life. because I'm afraid of liberty. As sick as I am, I'll fight you if you try to open that door. Oh, I'll fight you, and I'll lie about it. Because I'll call my cell freedom, and I'll call that open space outside prison. That's how confused I am. That's how sick I am. See? Don't take my toys. My toys be my religious belief, which I've had for 30 years. What is your cell life really like? I'll ask you that question 10,000 times. What is your cell life, your present life, really like? Now, don't lie. You've got to stop telling so many lies. Which, as I said before, isn't easy because you are the lie, and that's all there is. Where there's a you, there is a lie. It is possible to live without you, and therefore possible to live without the lie. Now you'll go right out and lie some more. I'm not condemning you. I just want to make you quite alert to the fact that this is your state. Because this is your only hope. This is your only opportunity. You have none other. Your lies will keep you in hell, as they've done up till now. Right here now. I'm talking about right here now, in this room. This is the one opportunity you have in life. You're going to walk out on it? It's up to you. Go ahead if you want. I'm telling you, you have no other opportunity. You'll have to pay the price. No, I understand. I understand quite well that you were bad because you're scared. I know that. I know the two go together. But I'm telling you, as we discussed for a half hour this evening, this much courage and honesty is all that's asked of you, because that's all you can have right now. You don't have any more than that. The rest is a pack of nonsense, of delusion. That much? Okay? Fair enough. With that, you can come here and work with. Would you like to write down the following? Just 2 sentences. I will live from myself, comma. I will live from myself, comma. Not from my expectations. I will live from myself, not from my expectations. I am not my expectations. I will live for myself, not for my expectations. I am not my expectations. Now this morning, I will ask you some questions. The first one being, You listen very carefully to this now. It's so simple and so much to see in it. I will ask you the question, why are you disappointed in anything? Why are you disappointed in anything? Now this time I didn't ask you why you were ever angry at anything, why you were ever distressed by anything, upset by anything. I asked you why you are disappointed by anything. See, disappointment is a relatively small annoyance. And being small, it also has considerable quantity. Therefore we miss it. It's so fast, so elusive, we don't see it going through our mind. And so all day long we just enjoy being disappointed by this or that, without ever seeing what is happening. When you have begun to study your mind and able to see your mind, you'll be able to see an astonishing number of times when you're simply disappointed at something. You wanted this meeting to turn out a little bit different than it did. You didn't hear what you expected to hear, maybe, or what you wanted to hear. Or you compared it with the last meeting and said that meeting was more exciting, more illuminating to you. Why are you disappointed in anything? Why are you setting up a scene in your mind in which you say that if this happens, or if that person behaves that way, then I'll feel better. I'll feel secure. I'll feel loved. I'll feel wanted. I'll feel needed. Or I'll feel an excitement. I'll feel a sensation. Something going through me that I think is a good feeling. I call it a good feeling at least. So I've built up all these ideas of how something should turn out. I should have been appreciated for what I did for people. I should be accepted for being the way I am, whatever you have set up in your mind. And it doesn't turn out that way. And so you're disappointed and you feel robbed. Are you aware that this is happening to you all day long? You have set up a scene of if you do something for someone, you put on a nice pretty new dress or a nice new suit or whatever. And there should be a certain reward to you from the exterior world, which will in turn enable you to give what you call a reward to yourself by saying, I succeeded in making an impression. I succeeded in getting a laugh with my joke. I succeeded in making people like me a little bit more or whatever. And it didn't happen that way. It didn't turn out that way. This happens so often during the day and goes so fast that we never notice the frequency of it. Now, so we're going to start to notice, all of us here in this group are going to start to notice how disappointed we are in small ways. Now we're going to see it happen because we set up the expectation that we should get this particular reward from someone or from an event. I should get the thrill from it. Having seen that we've set our own trap for ourselves, we're going to cease setting the trap and cease walking into it. But you can't do it until you see it. So we're going to discuss this morning, and I want you to discuss with me, please, what you're setting up in your mind as a demand, as an expectation, that isn't fulfilled by the exterior world. So I'll ask you the question, why do you set it up? Why do you set up your own trap and walk right into it? Why? It's because out of this I get my feeling of self, my feeling that I am what? An important person, an impressive person, a person who should be rewarded because I am, I think, in my own imagination, a valuable person, which is the trap itself. Stop and think about it. Don't go so fast. Because this is the end. Seeing this, understanding this, and seeing it thoroughly with my whole being will be the end of my slavery to the exterior world, including everyone in my life, to all my relatives, my friends. Puts an end to my slavery completely. Can you see the small chain called disappointment and work with that? Or are you going to simply enjoy the false feeling of life, the thrill? Sure, it's a small one. It's a very small thrill to feel disappointed, but it happens so frequently all day long that it keeps us what we call alive. Something to complain about, maybe. Something to accuse some other person about, not even aware of what is going on in our mind. So I'll ask you again, and you tell me if you can, why are you disappointed in anything at all? Why are you disappointed that life will come to an end sometime? Are you disappointed in that, or is that too mild a word to use? The fact that your life and my life will come to an end on this earth sometime. Why are you setting up a belief that says that you'll live in heaven afterward to protect yourself from that? All right, I'll ask you another question. You keep that in mind, and I'll ask you another one. We'll see how all these are connected. Why are you afraid of your own confusion? First of all, may I ask, do you have confusion in your life and in your mind? Do you have it? Why are you afraid of it? Don't you see that that is simply a wrong reaction to it? Don't you see that there's no need to be afraid? Oh, let's make it a little stronger. I've been too mild. Why are you afraid of your own madness? Your own madness, using that word in both ways, angry and lunacy. Why are you afraid of it? Don't you see that we're here in this class to see that something else can be done with the lunacy? Starting with an observation of it, leading to an understanding of it, leading to a dropping of it, leading to sanity. I ask you again, why are you afraid of the mad ramblings of your own mind? Oh, you didn't know that you were afraid of your own mind? Look at it right now as you're sitting here in this room, and you will see that you're afraid of yourself. That's a generalization, is it not? You're afraid of yourself. You're afraid of your emotions, of how you might blow up, how you might goof something, because you sense and rightly sense that you're not in control of your own life. Why do you have the reaction of being afraid of it? Why don't you work on it intelligently, as we're doing in this class, to put an end to it? Because being afraid of it is on the same level. Being afraid of madness is madness itself, right? Now, I want you all to slow down. I'm going to do so myself so that we're out of the emotional center, which you are now in to a degree, and get on the intellectual center, and we will have open discussion from now on. This is powerful stuff. What would you like to talk about? Can you see? Yes.
Can you elaborate, Vernon, more on this last statement that you said we are here to see that something else can be done with these mad states we have in this mad?
Well, look, I see the state I'm in. I actually see an emotional state, an angry state. If I try to run away from it, the running away from it is on the same level. Look, there's only one thing I can do with a state, a mad state. What do you want to call it? Confused state, a disappointed state. There's only one thing I can do. Stick with it, which is terrible. Let me take a different path. Can you find places in society, out in the world, which is our school, can you find places out in that world where you can consciously tremble at something? Where are you in a situation out in that world where you're afraid? Can you sit in that stage, in that state, and watch yourself tremble without doing a thing about it? Without doing a thing about it? That will make you quite conscious of it. That'll make you do one thing that is quite necessary and much deeper than you do now, which is to see the state, which will be a shock to you, I'm telling you. It'll be a great shock to you. And I'll tell you, it's going to take a lot more courage than you have now, but you have to start so that you see the mask, the artificiality, and live with that until, remember what we said last night, until something that is not of that state will take it over, replace it, and destroy it. You had better make up your mind that you're going to go not 10 times farther, but 1,000 times farther than you have up until now. Otherwise, you will all of you here who have been coming here all this time, sit here in a state of thinking you understand when you don't. Then you'll go out there still scared. You'd better see how much emotion, how much feeling, consciously, you have to get into this, which is why on Sunday it's very valuable for you to get up here and talk and tremble and be scared. Do you know how valuable that is to you? I will tell you that that is a very minor stage. There is far more to go than that. But this is a start. I encourage you to get up here and, if necessary, to give a very foolish talk. Which will put you through a lot of humiliation, which is quite necessary. What else? Yes.
I want to mention an incident that happened to me this week, and I don't know if it's on this week or not, but I had a certain party that's been attacking me because I've been coming here. And this particular person said to me, a lot of people turn to alcohol, a lot of people turn to having dogs, a lot of people turn to this or that, and you have to turn to Vernon Howard.
All right. Excuse me, go ahead.
No, the only thing is I reacted.
Sure. All right. Let me ask.
And I threw the person out. That's a reaction.
Yeah. That's really
Why did you become angry?
I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet.
All right.
Would it be because there is a fear that the other person within us, that there is not the surety there, and so would it be that there would be a fear that the other person might be right, and we don't want to admit that?
Well, yeah, that's very definitely, yeah. So you have doubts, and maybe the other person is right about this, and so they've destroyed your pseudo-security. All right, I'll ask you a question now, as best you can, and don't be afraid to answer. Do you think there's something right about this?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Why are you disturbed when anyone makes remarks like that? Why are you disappointed? Huh?
I don't know. I didn't want to get into an argument, so I told him to leave.
All right. Let me ask you another question. Aren't you able to observe a person and see when they are in a sarcastic mood? Could that be a right? Can't you see someone in a sarcastic mood and know that sarcasm is wrong, and that you feed that by arguing, by fighting? Why are you feeding sarcasm? Don't you know it's wrong? Don't you know the other person is afraid too? Why are you fighting it? I'm sorry, but you don't need to fight for truth. God doesn't need you to fight for him. Besides, when we fight to defend the truth, we're not defending the truth at all, are we? What am I defending? You tell me. Because this is open discussion now, of course. And I may be defending the idea that I know the truth and I'm getting it here. That would be an idea, and it is a right idea, but I've identified with it in the wrong way.
You wanted us to ask an intellectual question.
Yeah.
Can I mention something emotional?
Try it. See what happens.
Okay. You asked the question, why are we disappointed? I simply want to say, I don't know the answer to any of this question.
Okay. That's why I asked it. To make you look into your own self and ask yourself, why am I disappointed when I don't get the raise or whatever? What do you want? Why are you disappointed? What false part of you, what false part of you has made a demand? Is this, yeah?
Well, I would think that you would be disappointed in things you've set up in your mind that you should be or have or something like this is why you're being disappointed. You're not reaching the goal you've thought about.
This will make me secure if what? You name it. If I get married, if I get the new home, if someone likes me, if I get the letter I'm expecting, I get the phone call, the business deal goes through, whatever. Why do you set the trap? That's what I asked earlier. Why do I set a trap for myself? Why do I say that life must unfold according to my desires, according to my demands? I'm walking right into it, which I've done all my life. Because I've identified with my desire. If this happens, I will be somebody. You won't be anybody at all. You will have the illusion and the emotion of being somebody. And that's what we lean on, and that's what has to be propped up every 5 minutes.
I'm just thinking from the standpoint of the false self. There just doesn't seem to be any other way but to set up life on expectation. And of course, that's in thought, and you know this is something I'm trying to do. But it doesn't seem to be any other way if you're thinking about it.
Can you see how you can have expectations on the everyday level without yourself being involved in it? We expect the sun to rise tomorrow morning. I expect that the milkman will deliver milk. Nothing wrong with that.
This is truly incredible. In order for me to place, to want an expectation from life, before that I have to assume that life indeed has a flow. In other words, that something does come from life, even before I expect something from it.
Well, say that again or in
Whereas
another way.
total, I'm talking about total, the false self, the total madness. Even before you start expecting things from life, before you can start expecting that, you also have to have the assumption, which obviously is not true, that indeed life gives something. That indeed there's a flow in life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's all right. That life gives.
And that in itself is another assumption that, well, that's it.
The division comes where we begin to require that life will produce a certain thing according to my order. It's going to produce something. And when we learn how to go with whatever it produces, then we're really free, then we're really alive.
Yeah.
It's emotional and intellectual.
It's all right. You have to have a combination of both. Without that, you'd be off balance. Then you'd be an emotional preacher or an intellectual preacher, right? And there's no difference in the two, really.
People say that they only expect good, but this is a very big lie, because if anything happens, right away the mind runs to negative happenings, and it really isn't an expecting of good things. It's mostly an expectation of bad things. I've noticed that every time anything happens, it's right away the mind runs to the negative.
Well, bad things are tremendously thrilling. Do you know what? If at the 6 o'clock news on television, you turned it on, and the newsman looked up from his papers when the camera goes on, they're always fiddling with it, and then they look up at the signal and all. And he starts telling you, Mary Jones gave a cake to her neighbor last Tuesday, and they had tea and coffee together, tea and cake together, and discussed philosophy. Now for a flash news item, a more good news. Did you switch on your TV set? Carry it a little further, just a second. I think I got something going here. Tom Smith read a whole chapter of Emerson's essays, and he learned something solid about himself and about life, and consequently, he's a much better man today than he was yesterday. And tomorrow he's going to read Thoreau. Okay, I've done all I can with that.
Is this because...
Wait a minute, we got to...
Is this because if there's more terrible bad things happening out there, then I can say, well, at least I'm not so bad off? Is this why the mind...
Oh, that's partly it. Look. All right, let's get personal. When you hear bad news of some kind, sort of exclusive bad news about someone, it gives you a thrill. And so you say, oh boy, where's the telephone? And you get on the telephone and tell as many people as you can about this exciting bad news you can. Why? It gives you a thrill. It does give you a feeling of being sort of exclusive. News flash. I'm the first. I get a scoop. So it all reverts back to us in a feeling of excitement that we get from being the bearer of bad news. This is the basis of a lot of gossip. Did you hear about someone's sex life? On and on. And if you had a satisfactory sex life yourself, you'd be bored with the sex life of your neighbor. You're trying to substitute and get the thrill out of talking about it. I keep seeing a hand waving out here. I think it's Joan.
Yeah, you tell us to question our motives, and something happened yesterday morning, and I learned of something, and it shocked me. I had a number of reactions.
Uh-huh.
And I was going to tell a few other people about it.
I understand, yeah.
And then realized that my motives would be wrong, because just as you say, I've always done this to get, first of all, if it's an exclusive, then they certainly, the reaction is going to be what I want, because it'll be shock, it'll be surprise, and then there'll be lots of talk about it, and everybody, including me, will be getting a very false feeling of life. And I kept my mouth shut, and it wasn't easy, because the habit has always been to talk about it, and see the shocked expression.
Yeah. I must do it. Right? You understand? In spite of everything. When I gain a small victory, which is a small insight, a little more understanding, having passed through a certain humiliation, a certain sigh of seeing that I wasn't as strong as I thought I was, once having gained some little small victory, what do? I forget it and go on to the next one. I forget that one and go on to the next one. Oh, there's no end to it. Okay? You know what that means? That means there's no end to my progress. Whatever age you are now, you will be working on this for the rest of your life. Do you really think anything is important but this? Oh, then why do you get thrilled when you made a good profit in your business and get really excited over it? I tell you, just 3 years ago, I paid $16,000 for that house, just 3 years ago, and I sold it for $28,000. That's what you call life. That's what excites you. We've all done it, haven't we, huh? Or something similar. We talked about flattery. Someone flatters you and you feel for the moment exalted. That's what you call living. That's what you call happiness. When I see the trash, what a tremendous challenge that is to me, and what a major decision I have to make. I'm either going to work on that trash, which is very difficult. Who said it's easy? It's very hard. But I want to find out how to become sane instead of remaining in the madness that I now am. So the question of whether it's easy or hard has no meaning. I do it. I do it. And I see how I've bluffed at every corner, bluffed you and bluffed myself, and played it safe by not putting myself in a position where I could see through myself. Now I'm doing it different. I'm going to find ways to see how weak I really am, how phony I really am. What's the matter with that? Is there anything wrong with that? Is everything right with that? Because so many other insights will come along with it, one of them being seeing how I have truly destroyed myself up to this point in my life. And what a shock that was, because I thought I was being good to myself. I thought I was my own best friend. Now I see I was my own worst enemy. You know, we're here in this group. We're here at these meetings to, as best we can and as fast as we can, walk into humiliation. Walk into places where I don't want to go, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because I see there's no other way to get out. I can't avoid the jungle anymore. I tried to. You know how I avoided the jungle and how you avoid the jungle? By calling it a paradise. By calling it a pretty woods with singing birds, in green trees, in apples and peaches and apricots. I called the jungle an orchard. And we had a conspiracy between us that we would all do this. We're here to be shaken up, not wanting to be. Right? Fair enough? Fair enough? Look, but we know, we have a certain advantage to use that word. We know that most of the parts of us do not want to do it, is going to fight. So we recognize that the enemy is there. And that is a bit of intelligence on our part. Because we see it as the enemy instead of as the friend. All right, we're in open discussion. Had any of you had any shocks this morning? Any disturbances this morning? I saw yours, Rod, in your eyes. Any fears this morning? I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you. As frightened as we get, we're not going to be afraid of that. How's that? As fearful as we may get at hearing certain things, at seeing certain things, we're not going to be afraid of that. We're not going to be afraid of our own fear. Instead, we're going to work in this different way on it. Because there is a different way to work on it, which is to detach ourselves from it. Yes?
It's only through consciousness of this fear that there can be freedom. So it has to be faced. It has to be walked through or anything. And to wish it would go away is ridiculous and childish, because that's not the dissolving of it.
The reason that the work is endless is because the work itself is the establishing of a relationship with the truth, which is a continuous kind of refinement.
Yeah.
As Lillian had just said, wherever we discover fear, we discover that our relationship with the truth is not in harmony, and therefore that is the place to work. And the place where the work really becomes positive, where it becomes self-actuating, or let's say self-perpetuating, is where that becomes a genuine positive desire, where we want to go right into it and stay there because we know what the work is doing for us. We know that it is getting rid of the trash.
All right, just a minute. Now, real honest again. Real honest, as best you can. And you may be deceiving yourself in giving your answer, but that's all right. Do the best you can. How many of you really know, as Leland just pointed out, a couple others, how many of you really know that it's this or back to the madhouse? How many of you know this? So, we're here to work. That's all there is to it. Right into it. Getting ripped apart? Okay, rip me apart.
This is good news.
Yes, yes. And I'll add my usual addition to that. There is no other good news, is there? Remember the good news of getting married or getting unmarried? Yeah. Remember that good news?
Out the window. Right?
Out the window. The good news that after working real hard for your career, you finally got that break you've been hoping for and you got that position. That's the good news. You can hardly wait to tell your wife or husband the good news. And even while you're telling the other person the good news, you're afraid. Right? Do I see? Yes, Dorothy.
When I flew to San Jose this time, the airlines booked me on a flight that didn't exist, and I wound up in Reno instead of San Jose. Okay. The time before that, I was supposed to go from San Francisco to Eureka, and because of the airlines, I wound up in Seattle. Now, my brother said, "What are you doing that attracts these events into your life?" But I was thinking, well, this is a good work project to just enjoy the ride and not be all upset about it. I don't know what I'm doing.
There are two answers to it. Shall I give you the two answers? I'll give you two answers. One. Don't expect anything but confusion in a confused world, including airlines, including grocery prices, including... Why do you expect anything but confusion in a mad world? Two. You can reduce it but not eliminate it because you can't change the mad world. You may even deny it. Did you thoroughly investigate in every way possible and ask yourself, this is a good question, ask yourself this every day, on the everyday level, where could something go wrong? Am I simply going to take their word for it? Am I going to thoroughly investigate? I'm talking about using your mind properly. Did you use your brains properly in making the reservation?
I felt that I did. I got the trees ahead of time, the people cooking ahead of time. I didn't forget last night. I checked the number of flights to San Jose for that day. And they ran it through the computer in San Francisco, the whole thing. And they assured me that we had a flight for this day. I don't know what else I could have done.
You should have got a little suspicious when they said all out for Yokohama.
I was actually checked in and had a boarding pass before they came and said this flight does not exist.
I'll tell you, that's a great, agreed, if you used it properly. That's great to try to remain sane in a mad world. In any condition at all, And don't think you're going to change that. You're not going to change that out there. It can't change. But I can remain sane in it. And 9 out of 10 times, I can stay out of it in the first place, not get involved with it in the first place, not 100%. Go ahead.
I'll give an example, too. But I use the statement, I'm not going to live like this anymore.
Yeah.
I think a good way to walk right into humiliation is to be a landlord. A lot of people know we have some places in Wickenburg we rent out to winter visitors. And a Canadian friend of mine called and said they definitely wanted to rent this particular unit for January.
Yeah.
So consequently, we've been turning everybody else down. Then yesterday, just before I came here, he called up and said they couldn't make it. Of course, my immediate reaction was, well, I've lost so many dollars.
Right.
But really, the thought did come to my mind, I'm not going to react, and live like that. I'm
Right.
going to drop it
Right.
and see what happens.
Yeah.
So it really worked from that standpoint. That's a testimony, but it's...
Yeah. Sure. Now, that was the right reaction. You may not have succeeded at it totally. You probably didn't, but you tried. You made an effort at it. All right. Can't you simply see how unreliable people are? I'm talking about reliability. People are not reliable at all, even on the everyday level. And I'll tell you something else. They have, and I'm saying this consciously, deliberately, so we don't make a mistake. They have no consideration for you at all. None at all. None. They can't have. When I'm an egotist, a pure egotist, you don't exist except as someone to exploit and use. I don't care what happens to your money or your health or anything else. The ego has no conscience whatever. People don't care about you. Do you really think people care about you? Boy, are you gullible. Boy, do you have a lot to learn. People don't care about you in the smallest way. I imagine some of you who have more knowledge in certain areas than I do could give examples of this. The idea of maybe selling certain kinds of foods which maybe are impure or something like that. Well, let's stick it in. Maybe nobody will notice that it's polluted or whatever. They care about your health? No, it's the saving of the $500 that would happen if they get it through. The dishonesties, the little dishonesties in business. Oh, big dishonesty.